Hi, mamas and friends. It's Sarah from Late Night Coffee Moms again. Oh, how come whenever I hit play, it does a little countdown for me, and then I realize I've got to adjust my seat, I've got to get my legs in a different position, and I got to have my snuggle pillow. Yeah, we've already talked about that. And now I'm actually going to move you a little bit closer to me. Woo! Hi, Eunice. All right. So, has everybody got their coffee ready? I probably should be drinking green tea today instead of coffee. I've been a little bit jittery. I think I talked about that last time with you guys. So today, of course, is Thursday, so that's our book chat day. And last week I went into all my current favorites and all that kind of stuff. But today I'm going to talk to you a little bit more from a homeschooling perspective, but it's also something parents can use. I mean, parents of public school children or private school children or traditionally school children or whatever, grandparents, they can all use it. And I'm going to specifically talk about kindergarten and books. And so I'm going to take you back many years ago. Here's my stack of books. When I had first decided to start homeschooling. My husband and I, well, let's go back even further. My oldest was kicking around in the shopping cart at Costco with my mother and I, and we stumbled upon Bob books. How many of you guys know Bob books? Pretty sure you all know what Bob books are. They're really easy readers with the simple like stick line drawings, very gentle little books. And we decided we're just going to pick up a set of these Bob books because any minute now, my kiddo is going to need these books, and we might as well just have them handy and see what's up. So we got the books and brought them home, and later that night, just for fun, I pulled some out and thought, well, maybe I can get him excited about these books by reading them to him or letting him look at the pictures, you know. And we opened the first book, and he read the first book. All right. I think, that book maybe has 6 words in it that are different, but he read it. And then, sorry, my phone just went berserk. And then I handed him the second book, and he read the second one with very little help. And so it went that my son, taught himself basically how to read. I got to move my pillow because now I'm getting hot. And it was awesome. It was amazing and flabbergasting. And then we didn't know what to do with this child who hadn't ever been in preschool or any kind of environment like that, but had taught himself how to read and how to spell. Now, spelling is still not one of my family's giftings, but we're talking at 4 years old, he would write on his little magnet board. You guys remember the magnet boards, and you erase them by shh. He wrote elephant, and the only thing wrong with the word elephant is one of his E's was flipped. Well, he was 4, so it was pretty amazing, and we were all astonished. So my husband and I started looking into school for him and trying to figure out what are we going to do. We don't want him to be bored. We don't want him to be behind either, so we wanted to look around. So we went to all the public schools around us and went to their informational meetings and all that stuff. And we didn't really find one we liked. We found one that had dual enrollment where he would be learning mostly Spanish. The teacher would be teaching in Spanish. I think they said 80% of the time in kinder. And we were intrigued by that. But my husband's family comes from Spain. And the Spanish they were teaching was more of Mexican Spanish. I don't know I hope I'm not, well, it's Spanish from Mexico. And the history they were teaching was all like Mexican history, and none of it went to Spain. And so my husband wasn't really offended by it, but he was kind of like, whatever. If we were going to put him in dual enrollment where he was going to learn Spanish, we wanted him to also learn a bit about his Spanish heritage, like as far as Spain heritage. But so after looking at that, we prayed about it and talked about it. And I believe my mother was praying about it, because when she prays for something, it tends to happen. So all of a sudden, we just figured, I don't even know where it came from. She might have whispered it to me. I am clueless as to where the idea popped into my head, because homeschooling was never, ever anything I ever intended in doing. I had been homeschooled for just a semester, and now I see that it was great, but then I hated it, and I didn't like my parents very much for putting me through it. And now I'm like, well, that was cake. I should have just kept doing that. But so I never wanted to homeschool. Never, ever, ever in a million years. But somewhere along the line, God's got to my heart, got to my convictions, and planted his own for my family there. And for us, the answer was to homeschool. Private school was not an option. And so we started homeschooling. And I went out and I bought this really awesome curriculum. And I'm serious. It's an awesome curriculum. It's an all-in-one, all-inclusive curriculum. You just kind of have to add in if you wanted math worksheets, you needed to add those in. Otherwise, it was mostly skip counting and shapes and stuff, which we'll get to in a second. And if I wanted to keep going deeper into reading with him in kindergarten, I needed to grab a curriculum to do that. But otherwise, it had all his science and all his history and social studies and what else? Excuse me, I got the hiccups. Like, I think it even had things like, I guess it's social studies, but your emergency personnel, civil service personnel, all that kind of stuff. It was wonderful. So we get started, and I'm gung-ho about it, and I'm diving into it. And it's a very simple curriculum, but it took a lot of planning ahead. And I did not know what I was doing. And at the time, I did have resources I could turn to, and I don't know why I didn't. I don't, it's probably a pride issue. But come second semester, I was burnt out. And so was my son. This is kindergarten. This is not college prep kindergarten. This is kindergarten. It's basically all the stuff you've already been teaching your child since they were born. Things like how to wipe their own fannies, how to wash their hands, how to brush their teeth. And you're adding in some science and but you're not really expecting them to master everything. It's kindergarten. But I was. And come about the first semester, December, we were burnt out because we had gone through the solar system and the astronomy like 5 times because I couldn't figure out where to stop or where the curriculum wanted me to stop. It was a whole lot of bringing your own books to the curriculum, like going to the library and using it. And it was beautiful, but I had no idea what homeschooling really looked like. And I tried to sit him at a little desk and whatever. It was ridiculous. I was ridiculous. And I remember going to a party at a friend's house, and there was another homeschool mother there, and she had olders, and they were probably, 11 and 13. And I asked her, well, what curriculum are you using? Because I'm stuck. And her answer to me was, you don't need a curriculum as long as you have great books. I remember sitting there at that party, and I'm sorry, lady, I don't even remember your name. You might recognize me. I'm sorry. And I thought, what a snooty woman. Here I am. I have a kindergartner. I am opening up to her, asking for help, which was never easy for me to do. And she's like, well, we don't use curriculum. We only use books. And I'm like, okay, how? How do you use books? And part of my problem is I didn't understand there were many different methods of homeschooling. And we'll get to that at another time, maybe on a Friday. So we ditched our beautiful curriculum, and we kept the reading and the math. And then what happened grew very organically, naturally, I believe Holy Spirit led to where every night we'd all snuggle. We lived in a very small house at this time. So we'd all snuggle on this like futon mattress on the floor in my children's room. We'd snuggle there, and in a rocking chair across the room, my husband would read to us. And I would read to the kids all day and stuff, but he read The Little House on the Prairie Treasury. Again, I don't know where this idea came from. Again, it might have been from my mother, just God has erased that from my memory because I don't know. I don't know where it came from. But he read it, and he read Little House on the Big Woods. He went through the entire Little House series all the way up to, which one is it? Plum Creek. So the first three, the main three, he read all the way through Plum Creek. And so during the day when he was at work, we would do math and we would do reading. And then we'd talk about things we read about in the book with Daddy at night. We'd talk about bears. We talk about why people played with the pig's bladder. Why was that a big deal? We talked about how you got maple syrup and what that process was like. We talked about navigation. We talked about like Native American rights and squatters' rights and all that stuff, homesteading. And that came about very naturally. It was just curiosity led based on this book. And then we would get into things like we would make special dinners that were reminiscent of the book. Even for Christmas, my kids got a little bag of white sugar, and then they got a tin cup because that's what the girls got. And my oldest is a boy, but he still loved the adventures they had in these books enough, and he loved that Daddy read it to them at night. That was like the big, whoo, Daddy's going to read this to us. He thinks it's important. And so that's what we finished our year on, was basically the Little House Treasury. And we learned how much our family liked to read together based on these books. But because I had an issue just having math and reading, I felt like there had to be more, even though we're exploring all the science and social issues that happen in these books and comparing it to nowadays. I had to read more. When I told my mother we were reading the Little House books, she had a huge list of suggestions. And for once in my life, I listened to her and we did those. So we read the Little House books at night with Daddy. And during the day, we read Variety of the Grand Canyon, and we talked about canyons, and we talked about animals, and we talked about gold mining and all that kind of stuff. We loved this book. We loved this book together, Variety of the Grand Canyon. Then after that, we read Johnny, Texas, which is all about an immigrant family. And so we went through all of those issues together. And are there still immigrants? There's immigrants in our family. We talked about that. You know, how Steve, my husband's father, has come from Spain, and we talked about his transition over and how it was different than Johnny's and how it was similar to Johnny's. And then after that one, we read Johnny, Texas on the San Antonio road. Yeah, we talked about sickness and how come this little kid is trusted with a rifle when nowadays you have to be a certain age to own a gun. Why is it different than today? How was it helpful? What was it used as? It was used as a tool, right? And not necessarily a weapon. It was used as a way to get food, as a way to protect your family, because you had to. In this book, I believe he protects the baby from a snake. Maybe it was that one. I don't remember. I get them all mixed up. So we read these, and these are old books. Look at the pages. They're all yellowed, and they smell delicious, and they just feel good to hold. And so that's what we would do during the day. Daddy would read Little House on the Prairie at night, and then we would read these, which had the same feel of adventure and nature, right, as the Little House books. And that's what we would do. And that was our homeschool. Math and reading and Little House on the Prairie and Johnny, Texas and Bridie at the Grand Canyon. And that started all the books in our house. That started all the book loving, all the book hunting and everything. So that summer, so this is when he was in kindergarten and he's going to be going into first grade, I started looking into things like, okay, what is homeschooling? What does it look like? How many options do I have? I know there's more curriculum in this one place that the one curriculum I purchased, which I loved, but was just too overwhelming for me. And I found this book. Now, this book was more for me. And this is, I'm not even going to pronounce her name right, so you're just going to have to read it. But Pocket Full of Pine Cones. And this is so simple. It's a very simple story, very mellow read, written by, let's see, a Charlotte Mason follower. That's a form of homeschooling. But it had supplements in it. Like, so you're reading the story all about this mom who's chosen, I think it's 1935. I think that's when the book starts. Let me check it out. Yep, September 1935. She starts homeschooling her children when this is new and different. And she orders specific books that I actually already owned. So I was super excited. I'm like, I own that book. I can pull that into our homeschool. And she takes her children on nature hikes, nature walks, has them has them learn handicrafts instead of worrying. I don't know. It was very simple. She teaches her child how to quilt, how to do crochet, a lot of old-timey habits that have really good benefits for connecting your left-right brain, for accomplishing a task and being able to share it, for feeling as if you're contributing to the family and not just, I'm not against Play-Doh, I love Play-Doh, but you're not just building with Play-Doh. You're building something that you can give away or that you can sell. You're learning almost a trade as you're playing and as you're listening to stories. And that's Pocket Full of Pine Cones. And she just very simply takes us through this mom's first year of homeschool, where she gets her books, where she gets her advice, and how she just slows down. And peppered throughout the chapters are little homeschooling tips and little tricks to use to pull nature into your homeschool. So that was kindergarten for us. Kindergarten, the first semester was a mess because I had decided this little curriculum book that I had, wonderful curriculum, wasn't enough. And I needed to top it off. And I don't know what I was expecting. I think I was expecting my children to have full, humongous discussions with me about, I don't know, the solar system and constellations and how they got their names. I don't know what I was expecting. All I know as a homeschool mom who didn't have a whole lot of homeschool friends, I felt as if I had to do more and prove myself more than my traditional school companions. Why? I don't know. And it made a horrible first semester. But when we let go and we took care of the fundamentals, just like reading and math, and then we enjoyed story together. We enjoyed talking about stories together. We enjoyed going deep into stories together. I mean, my son learned what a paragraph was by sitting on my lap and him asking, why are there those spaces at the beginning of some sentences and not at others? Well, honey, that's a paragraph, and that's called an indentation, and here's where it starts and here's where it ends. And then seeing that he's interested in just how that is, I could explain what the quotation marks were for and what the punctuation was for before it even came up in regular schooling or whatever. And that's what we did. And that part of our homeschool year of kindergarten was magical. It was wonderful because, friends, I hate to tell you this, but I'm a quitter. If this had been too hard or too complicated or too overwhelming, I would have given up because I wouldn't have seen the benefit of it. But just being with your kids, watching them play. Yes, now it's time to set aside and we're going to do some math. That doesn't even have to look like worksheets. That can be baking cookies and talking about fractions and having them figure it out on their own, and then acting shocked and delighted because you just figured out 4/4 is the same as 1 cup. That's amazing. That's what it's about in kindergarten. It's about keeping their wonder, keeping their love of learning, inspiring them to find more things to learn about. Just like we talked about bears and pig bladders and all that kind of stuff. And from the Little House books, that was spawned by, yes, we gave them a core. This is part of their core, and we did Bible study and all that kind of stuff. But here's our core. This is what we were reading. And we pulled from it. What interested you in this? Oh, you like books about the woods. Okay, let's find another book about a woods. Oh, you want a book where the boy is the adventurer. Okay, let's find you one where the boy's the adventurer. Oh, you want a book about animals. Okay, we'll find you one that's more about animals. And a lot of people, some people call that delight led homeschooling or interest led homeschooling. And I guess in a way it was, except for we did have a core and we followed our core. And then we just delighted in everything else. And that was magical. That showed me I could learn. And it even taught me what I had missed, what I'd missed in my school, at public school. I'd missed the opportunity to dive deep because there's deadlines, because there's finals, and there's this and this and this. I didn't get to just explore what learning looked like for me. So if you're new to homeschooling, or if you have kids, which you probably do, you're on Late Night Coffee Moms. If you just, delight in everything you're learning. Every book is an opportunity to ask more questions and then to be the adventurer who gets to go find those out. That's what we love about books at our house. And that's how we did kindergarten. I would love to revisit it. I might do that just for fun. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me on Thursday. I cannot believe how our little tiny page has grown. I started out with 2 followers, people, 2. I believe that was my mother and my sister. It might have been my mother and my friend. I can't remember. And we today are at 131. Thank you guys so much for sharing. Keep sharing, keep building the community so that we can have more conversations. I do read what you post and I do read what you comment, and I want to make this fun for everybody, whether you're a homeschooler or not, whether you're a writer or not, whether you like coffee or not. I want to make it a place of encouragement that uplifts you. All right? So I can't wait to see you tomorrow. I'll catch you then. Bye.